Here we are meeting together to have the conversation on the conversation show with the host, Mr. Moore. I believe that the platform is designed to build and to create out of nothing. He calls it the mud, but out of nothing into something that is awesome and fantastic. I am Pastor Lardale Rush. I am a local church planter in the metropolitan area of St. Louis, Missouri. This is our second church plant. The name of the church we're planting now is Living Hope Church. If you're ever in the St. Louis area, please do not hesitate to give us a call or visit our future services. I'm here to pray for the blessing and the prosperity of this wonderful opportunity that's being presented, I think, by a highly intelligent host. My hope is that it will broaden and it will draw in not only these fantastic panelists here today, but others like them who are interested in broadening out the richness that's hidden in our community. If you will, I'm going to pray and I'm going to turn it over to the host himself. Father, we just thank you for this day. We are blessed to be in this day. There's a lot taking place that many have not even seen or heard and have not been able to grasp the depths of the things that many struggle with in this day. But we're here, and we're here, dear God, to give you the insight. Not that we need to share anything with you, but that we would love to give you the insight about how we feel about having the conversation. I pray, dear God, that you would make it prosperous, I beseech you, Father, that you, in your infinite integrity, would be able to have a major part in the development of these conversations. I pray, dear God, for the panel each week, that the content that is presented may be measurable, and that it may measure to the point where it reaches all of our community. I pray for the substance of the content of those who are invited, that they will bring, Father, uh, the necessary richness that will strengthen this show. Also, pray for the collaboration with all of the speakers, all of the guests, and that the energy that is spent in preparation by Brother Moore and others may be received by all who listen. And in saying that, dear God, we pray for those who listen. We pray that the numbers will multiply and that they will be intrigued and come back each week and tell their friends. I know using technology can be a challenge sometimes, Father. So we pray for a smooth selling experience with this show. We pray that the platform and the host himself, Brother TJ Moore, will speak always with clarity, that he would present the research of his heart with relevance, and that the content that he provides will build confidence in everyone who listens. I pray that he will present it with humility, but most of all, I pray that his passions will be seen. As Mr. Moore addresses the integrity and concerns of our community, I pray, dear God, that you will ultimately get the glory and that you will ultimately get the praise, and that character we will be built for every individual that is on this platform and those who will come in the future. Make this platform prosper to your glory. It's my prayer in Christ's name and for his sake alone. Amen.
Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's chop it up, man. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, hey, y'all in the chat. It's about time for communal reconnect. Power of the we, type of context. Working on the us so we can hit up what's next. It's that grown brother, grown sister type of flex. More like soul check, not just collecting checks. Fact, not feelings is what we got on deck. Take the high road, so this here is high tech. Getting to the real, everything that we hitting on. Pull up or sit down, tell me what you sipping on. Reclaiming kinghood, that is what we getting on. Real headlines is what we spitting on. So, hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a second, talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now, but have a conversation? Hey now, yo, let's have a conversation. Maybe take a second, talk on what we facing. Only way to change is to change the situation. How about we break bread now, but have a conversation? Let's have a conversation. Hey, yo, let's have a conversation. Have a conversation. Have a conversation.
Before we get started, I wanted to introduce my co-host, Lady Flo. Are you there?
Yes, I am. How y'all doing?
How you doing? Good. We are the Real Bravado Network. Um, I'm nervous. That pastor put a whole lot on that prayer, didn't he?
Woo-wee. He did a great job. Wonderful.
Okay. All right, well, Flo, I'm gonna put you back down in the waiting room. We're gonna go ahead and get started, get going, and when we bring the panel back up, I'll bring you back up, and we'll get going. Okay.
Okay, TJ.
All right. Thank you. All right, everybody. Like I said, welcome to the Real Bravado Network, and this is Have the Conversation. Before we get started, if you guys can do us a favor, if you can go to YouTube, search Real Bravado Network, hit the subscribe button, tell people about this. That's the best way you can help us help us grow this platform. Okay, we absolutely need your support and for us to keep going. And keep doing what we do. And we also every week will need people to join the panel. So if you're interested in joining the panel, there'll be information at the end of the show today on how to get in contact with us on how to join the panel. Okay. So I appreciate it. Thank you for that. All right. So let's get down to business. All right. In the last few years, there's been a quiet but growing movement in Black America, probably more likely between Black men and Black women, having conversations about what we want from one another. The thing about these conversations is that it's starting to reveal or maybe bring clear into focus that there might be a full-blown silent war going on between Black men and Black women, okay? The more alarming thing about this is that it seems to me that this silent war might be brewing with the generations of Generation X and late Generation Y. I'm talking roughly people born between the years of like 1970 to 1960, 1986, somewhere around there. You know, Gen X and Gen Y are old enough to have seen fully functioning, intact families, meaning we were able to see our parents and grandparents married for a lifetime. And that depends on where you are on that timeline, because that's a long stretch of a generation. Also, Generation X and Generation Y were the victims of the 1980s crack cocaine epidemic, Bill Clinton's crime bill, which led to stuff like truth in sentencing, the three strikes rule. It also led to the development of the prison industrial complex. You know, so Generation X, you know, have been through a lot during its time here on this planet. But we're going to address those topics on a later show. But the one thing that I really wanted to point out, that during that period of time, that represents 50 years of single mother-led homes in the Black community. 50 years of single mother-led homes in the Black community. 50 years. Just think about that for a while. And that has led to some very specific outcomes for Black people, especially within the family, within the culture, and where we stand and how we interact with one another. All right, I'm not going to get that far off into that right now. We're going to stick a pin in that. That's actually going to be an issue for a later show down the road, but just wanted you guys to have that out there in your mind. But before we can start thinking about addressing this internal war, we're going to have a basic understanding, or more of an agreement, that there actually might be a silent war raging between our Black men and our Black women, okay? And before I forget, I'm sorry, I didn't introduce myself. Let me introduce myself real quick. My name is Tavares J. Moore. Now, I'm going to be talking a lot about image, and I'm not an image consultant, okay? I'm not a relationship expert. I'm not an expert on culture or history or anything like that. I'm just an average middle-class Black man who is just basically sick and tired of being sick and tired. Now, I do have a formal education. I have completed undergrad. I have a grad degree, and I have worked in professional environments like human services, nonprofit, civil rights organizations, educational and vocational settings, and in healthcare. So even though I'm not a specific, expert, I have spent my entire, we'll say now, 25 years of working specifically serving my own community. So I think I got some knowledge base to have these kind of conversations. And the other thing is, and I've been and I have been doing what every other Black person has been trying to do since they've been on this planet, which is find a way to build, leave a legacy, and connect. And that's what I'm hoping to be able to do with the platform that we have here, or that we're trying to build. And the fact that is to become an advocate for the average middle class, solid, character-driven Black men. Also, also be a champion for our feminine, productive, goal-minded Black women as well. Okay. Now I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret that a lot of people are probably going to give me some pushback on, which is this: according to all the data, the statistics, the surveys done, believe it or not, the majority of middle-class Black men prefer and want marriage or long-term relationships. And every time I talk to my lady friends about that, they all just kind of lose their mind about that in complete and utter disagreement with it. And I always tell them, just because you have a certain lived experience, that doesn't mean that that's the actual reality. And the data and everything backs me up on that. But we're not going to spend a whole lot of this show, bombarding people with data. We'll just sprinkle that out over the months that we're trying to build this. Okay. Now, I'm going to be attacking this issue or handling these really provocative issues on our platform, but I need to be upfront with everybody as I'm going to be doing that. And that is this: there's one simple fact about me. I have failed in being a leader effectively. I have failed to lead my own household. And it did not matter that I did not possess the skills, the tools, the wisdom to get her to get on the same page with me, or to encourage, or to have the courage to send her down the road once I became aware that she had no interest on getting on the same page with me. One of the tenets of being an effective leader is knowing when to move on. And I'm not going to blame her for my inability to lead. The one thing that I truly, truly, truly believe in is accountability starts with yourself. You got a lot of things going on. Things are always going wrong. Things are not working out the way you want to. I believe in order to begin to adjust what's going on, you got to start with yourself. Okay. So that's what I believe. So yes, I have failed, but the lessons of failure should come with a roadmap to success if you are willing to put in the work and be accountable for what you did and what you lacked. Okay. Now that I've crossed over into my 40s and thinking about my legacy, the mistakes I've made over the years, and where I want to be in the next stages of my life, that awareness has come to me because we as Black Americans, especially Generation X and Gen Y, we are now supposed to be coming into the stage where we are the adults and the adults of the country, the leaders of the country, and the passing on up to the next generation of this country. That's where we are now. And a lot of us don't really wrap our head around that we are now, when we think about ourselves back in middle school and high school, that we are now the age our parents were when we were in high school and middle school. That's a really scary thought to think about, that your butt got that old that quick. It happened in a blink of an eye. Okay. So we need to figure out the things that we are doing, what we have done. Is this giving us the best outcomes that we can have? And what we are doing, are we leaving something behind that we can be a proud of? Especially in today's world, we have access to all this technology, all of this information. We have ton of resources. We know better. Here at the Real Bravado Network and on our show, Have the Conversation, what we're going to do, we have 6 goals. We're not going to go over all the goals, but I'm going to go over some of the major ones that we're going to be focused on over here. 1, encouraging the building of Black families or rebuilding it, depending on what your perspective is. Some support and promote the average, everyday, solid Black man. We need that. Support and encourage feminine Black women goals and their outcomes. And most importantly for all of us, make lasting connections for Black men and Black women. Okay? All right. On this show, we're going to be having discussions that are not going to be widely popular all the time. But in order to do the work, we're going to have to pressure test our assumptions, our thoughts, our perspectives, and our attitudes. That's if we want something better. You know, and a lot of times when you're having these type of conversations, they're very generic in thought and broad in scope. But I'm talking about on an individual level that we need to pressure test our assumptions, our thoughts, and our perspectives and our attitudes, and also examine our outcomes. Are we where we want to be? Are we getting what we said what we set out to get? Are we doing things that's preventing it? We're here to pressure test those, have some fun doing it, but also this isn't just a platform where we just get to talk, blame one another, shout each other down, make excuses. This is a platform where I want us to begin to do the work. Can we change the world? Can we change everybody? Absolutely not. Can we change the world? Probably not. One will do. One will do. Okay. Now, the way in which we engage each other in that process on this show, we as Black people, this is just my opinion, we as Black people have come very, very comfortable with being very informal with each other. And that was a lot of varies. We have come very informal with one another, which can lead to lower the ability for us to maintain respect and decorum with one another because we're so informal with each other. We treat each other like we grew up, like all of us grew up in each other's homes, and that's just not the case. While we are having these pressure-tested conversations on this show, as the facilitator, I will hold everyone to the standard of respect and decorum. Mr., Mrs., Miss, Ms., Sir, ma'am. Those are paramount. It's dignified, it's respectful, it shows decorum, especially when you're having pressure-tested conversations, okay? We're going to attempt to do all of this on Have the Conversation because we are very invested in her image, his image, and our image. It has taken me nearly a lifetime to wrap my head around how valuable and significant image is. Everything on Have the Conversation, everything that we cover will be from the perspective of his image, her image, and our image. So let's take a closer look at the word image and how it applies to what we're going to be doing here on Have the Conversation, okay? So on to our next segment, which is our Real Bravado headlines, all right? All right, here we go with the Real Bravado headlines. This part of the show is where we're always going to introduce the topic for the panel to be discussing. So we don't spend a lot of time on the Real Bravado headlines. We get to the topic of the day and bring on our panel to discuss the topic. So What we're going to do, what we're doing right now is we're going to discuss the concept of image. First, we have to define it, okay? We're going to define the word image. Image is a noun. It's a person, place, or thing. Sometimes we use it like a verb, like to describe something. But an image, it's a picture. It's a picture in your mind or an idea of how someone or something is. It's also the way something or someone is thought of by other people. It's also the idea of others that others have of a person, especially in created by advertising and by newspaper and other media outlets. Image is also the reputation that a person, organization, product, including characteristics, appearances that they are known for. The reputation that a person, organization, product, characteristics, appearances that they are known for. The reputation that a person is known for. That is the concept of image that we are going to be dealing with here on Have the Conversation. The reputation that a person is known for. Okay? I was reading an article from a publication called The Atlantic, and it was talking about image. And it says in there, people take image as more as truth than actual words, and also that an image can be manipulated. They can be used by someone with a vested interest to frame how things should be or how they want them to look. So one question I have is, how has Black America's image been framed? How has the Black man's image been framed? How has the Black woman's image been framed? And those that are in charge of framing our image, what vested interest do they have in us looking and coming across a certain way? What's the outcome? Further in the article, it talks about manipulation. Manipulation of one's image is certainly an issue, but with the high velocity of social media, that it makes it sometimes verification of correct imagery problematic, which means that a conflicting or misleading or misunderstood image is often up to misinterpretation and subsequently can cause reactionary violence. The wrong image, the wrong interpretation of it by the people who are putting it out or the people perpetrating it can lead to reactionary violence. When I think about reactionary violence, I think about Walter Scott, Eric Gardner, Tamir Rice, Oscar Grant, Philando Castile, more recently, Patrick Leoa, the man that was shot by a cop in the back of the head just because he felt like it. Reactionary violence. Conflicting or misunderstood images is often open to misinterpretation and subsequently reactionary violence. When we think about our image and think about some of the things that we have to endure because of our image and the misrepresentation of our image, we all should have a degree of righteous indignation regarding it. The Pulitzer Center talked a little bit about image as well. And it says, with cultural image, there's a huge danger of producing false impressions or false information with bad analysis. For example, the reason why there aren't enough eligible black men. False impressions, false information, bad analysis. It wasn't until I was, probably in the last few years that I actually started taking my image seriously. Not that I didn't, but it wasn't on the forefront of what I was thinking. It wasn't on the forefront of how I looked at things. It just wasn't there. So is all of this, the misrepresentation, the misunderstanding, is that what's happening? Do we as black men and black women have an incorrect assessment of our own image amongst each other? We're going to take a quick look at information regarding when you think about black men and black women and our national image. We're going to take a little bit of look at that real quick, okay? We're going to start with his image. Black men nationally have the image of we're lazy, don't like to work, we're unmotivated. Black men don't take care of their children. We're uneducated, we're stupid, we have low IQs. There are more of us in jail than in college. Most of us are all thugged out. And here's my favorite, we're aggressive and violent. We're addicted to black on black crime. And we're just simply irresponsible. Let's look at her image. Black women, loud, attitude, don't need no man, disrespectful, argumentative. Black women, easy to lay down with. And my favorite, and I'm saying that sarcastically, black women are always angry. So that's the one thing that black women and black men have in common. We're always pissed off about something. We're angry, difficult, hard to get along with. I'm going to bring on our panel just a second, but right before I bring on my panel, let's look at, I want to talk about some numbers. Will not drown you with numbers. 72% of black homes are led by black women, meaning there are no men in the house. There are no men in the house. 34% of black men are married. 24% of black women are married. There are more married black men than there are black women, but we're not going to celebrate that. It's 34 versus 24 for us. It is unreal, unacceptable. The next lowest group of people who are unmarried are white people, and they're married at a rate of 54. White women are married at a rate of 54%. White men are married at a rate of 57%. The reason why the marital rates with men are higher because men tend to marry out their race more than the women than women. Women tend to be when they do marry, will always marry the man of their typically the man of their race. Here's another shocking statistic that I found too on blackdemographics.com. Believe it or not, black men are the most race loyal. People don't believe that. That was a shocker for me. As much as we have these things with, black men date white girl, but apparently black men are the most race loyal, which, okay. So, which brings me to my question for the panel. With all this information, with all of this that I've bombarded you with all of this, my question to the panel is, do we have a problem? Now, normally when we have a panel, you have multiple questions and stuff like that. I have one question for today's show. Do we have a problem? And I'm going to bring on our panel, and we're going to find out what they think. Hello, how you guys doing? Can you hear me?
Hey everybody.
How you doing? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you guys
Okay.
Yes. How are you?
Good. All right, before we get started, everybody, before I go around giving the introductions and stuff like that, I gotta go over the rules for the panel discussion. There are actually rules for this, okay? So let me go over these rules right away, okay? Rule number one, your first rule. So the first rule of the discussion panel is you have to answer the question that is asked. Now, if you need to explain it, fine, but you have to answer the question first, okay? Then explain. Rule number one, you don't follow rule number one, we boot you because whatever, we're here to have a discussion. Rule number two, no sign language. Looking at me like why y'all looking at me like I'm crazy? Sign language. Sign language is an acronym. It stands for shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right. Okay? So no shaming language, no insulting one another. The need to be right. If somebody disproves your point, don't go out there and die on the hill for the sake of your pride. Just acknowledge the defeat and tip your hat and move on, okay? So no shaming language over there, okay? 3, try not to cut anyone off. And then number 4, when addressing someone on the panel, unless you have permission from them, it's Mr., Miss, Mrs., Ma'am, Sir. Unless they give you permission to call them by their given name, okay? All right, I need everybody to accept that. Angela, do you accept the rules of the panel?
Yes, sir.
Miss Angela, you accept the rules of the panel?
I accept the rules of the panel. I do.
And I just broke the first one. Mr. Morris, do you accept the rules of the panel?
I accept.
You accept. Miss Bree, do you accept the rules of the panel?
Absolutely.
And of course, my lovely co-host, do you accept the rules of the panel?
You know I do.
Okay. All right. So before I get to the question, Miss Smith, what are you sipping on over there?
I got me some coffee with some French vanilla.
Some coffee with some French vanilla. Okay. All right, Miss Smith, where are you from?
I am from Anderson, South Carolina, but I reside in Myrtle Beach by way of
Myrtle Beach. All right, Mr. Morris, what are you sipping on?
Body armor.
Body armor.
Yeah.
Where are you from, man?
I'm gonna need this armor tonight.
You gonna need that armor tonight. Where you from?
Yeah. I'm originally from Appomattox, Virginia, but I reside in Atlanta, Georgia.
But you reside in Atlanta, Georgia right now. Okay. All right. Miss Bree, what you sipping on?
I done already sipping on. I got my Ciroc, and I ain't gonna lie to you. I got my Ciroc, and I got my chaser.
You said she said her
I ain't gonna
Ciroc.
play with you. I ain't gonna play with nobody.
I'm trying to tell you.
This is a serious topic. I need a drink behind that one.
You said I laid it out real thick, huh?
Oh, you played it. And then the pastor. Oh, I got you. I put the bottle up. I said, take this bottle back. I don't need this. I got my cancer sticks though.
Oh Lord, no, we don't want to do that because
my cancer stick.
Yep, we don't want to do that because we are
Oh,
talking
I'm
about
not
our
doing that
image. So
on
we,
here. I'm just keeping it real. That's what you say. But let's have a conversation. We can have it. I'm keeping it real.
Miss
You
Bree.
can't get mad at that.
Yeah.
No, I cannot. All right, Miss Flo, what are you sipping on?
I'm sipping on a little Coco Rico. I'm an island girl, so I'm strange with it.
What's a Coco
Take a
Rico?
sip for me,
Oh,
baby.
it's like a little island drink. It's like a soda pop. It got a little
Oh,
coconut flavor to it.
oh, okay. Me, I'm drinking fake champagne.
Oh.
That's what I give my kids on New Year's.
Welter sparkling. It's been sitting in my refrigerator for a month.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
And
it's
then
my
it's good
fake
when they get to
champagne.
act like they drunk.
It's flavorless though. I like those.
I do too. I'm like, here, take the rest. Let me go to the adult bar. I'll be
Okay,
right back.
so let's get down to it. I'm gonna start with you, Miss Smith. Am I allowed to call you Angela?
You are allowed to call me Angela. You are.
Okay. All right. So, do we have a problem? Yes or no, and why?
We have a serious problem. And I truly have noticed it here lately. Me in particularly trying to bring men together. Um, it's like pulling teeth. Trying to get us to come together, and it's like you said in the introduction when you were going through the images of how people perceive us. You know, people perceive us as angry black women that cannot get along, that will not get along, that will not work together. That's how people perceive us. But I'm an example of somebody that try to collaborate, try to bring people together, and I bend over backwards to promote people and to. They call me the queen of collaboration for just that reason. Somebody spoke that into my life some years ago, and it's just like here lately I just been trying to bring people together, trying to get people to understand that we didn't get dropped out of the sky. That there's a reason why we're here. And if we look back over our history, we can see. Like I was just sitting here looking over some documentations of those 400 years, those 400 and some plus years. People don't understand that it was just here recently, 1965, where we were given the 14th Amendment, were actually observed. And we can't get it. It's like we don't get that we need each other, and we cannot do this alone. That I am my brother's keeper. I am my sister's keeper. That is my motto. That is what I stand on. I ask that question all the time. Am I brother's keeper? Am I my
Okay.
brother's keeper? Yes, I am.
So, what do
I
you
have
think,
your
Miss
back.
Angela?
And
Miss
I want
Angela,
my
what?
brothers to know that.
Miss Angela, what do you think is the biggest problems that we're if we have a problem? What do you think is one of our biggest problems? Give me one.
We can't get over slavery. We can't get over what have been what was done to us. We are holding. We say we forgiven people that a lot, and then a lot of people still holding grudges, even though a lot of us wasn't around for a lot of these things. We holding grudges and we're holding on to stuff. Yeah, it hurt us, but sometimes we got to learn from those things. We got to take those things and allow those things to be stepping stones and building blocks for we may not see it, but for somebody that's coming after us.
Mm,
Because
yep.
somebody paved the way for us. It didn't just become overnight to where we're able to be right here on these platforms like this to discuss topics like this because it was a time when we could not.
Yeah,
Exactly.
definitely. Yeah. What about what about personal? A lot of times when you hear people talking about us that are not us, they always talk about personal responsibility. What do you think that has what role do you think personal responsibility has in us having a problem?
It all starts with you individually. But once you grasp you and you get you together, then that's when you got to start reaching out to your community because there's always somebody out there that is not where you are. And then you
Okay.
got to understand too that there's still some things in you that still need work on. And there's somebody
Mm.
out there that may be strong in that area where you're weak. That's why I tell you there's power in collaboration. There's power in partner. There's power in coming together. And when
Right.
I say power, people got to understand what that word truly means. Because don't define that word.
Absolutely.
See, Webster don't define that word, and all Wikipedia, they don't define that word, but you got to understand, you got to tap into that power that's on the inside of you. Because Genesis 27 said, He breathed the breath of life into you. So that means He's on
Right.
the inside of you. So part of Him is on the inside of you. So you know what's on the inside of you. He said He give you gifts and talents. So all
Yes.
these things are already on the inside of you. So you
Yes,
got to
yes,
understand that.
Yeah.
yes.
And then
All
when
right,
I say
Mr.
that word
Morris.
power,
Mr. Morris, do we have
Yes,
a problem? Yes, so, and why?
we have a big problem. We have the worst generation of black women that I've ever seen.
Oh my God, man.
And it didn't just start overnight. It started in the Reagan years and it continued on when they brought drugs into the communities. They took the black man out of the house, for one. They let the women go to Section 8 in housing, two. That means they don't need to depend on no man. If you have a man in the house, you can't keep getting your funds. Three. Now they get glorified on media with the lashes and the nails and all this alternate stuff that they need to look good. Four, they got toys now, so they don't need a man. So, with all that being said, attitudes change,
So
and
do you really believe that this is the worst generation of women?
the worst,
How you figure?
they think they're better than everybody. They keep an attitude. It's like if you're not on that level or you're not as successful as them, they look down on you, and they always like I see it every day traveling back and forth to work. The different ways how a black woman communicates with and interacts with the public. I'm like, why would you take a public job if you're going to be ghetto in a public job? You're going to be looking at your nails or your eyelashes, or you just have an attitude for no reason. I didn't sleep with you last night, so why you got an attitude with me? And it all started back when Clinton had all these laws. When you take the man out of the house, you have no who's going to be the stern person, who's going to lead that household. You have the woman. She has to go get the kids ready for school, go to work, come home and cook, do it all over again. So her motto is, I don't need no one. And
Wow.
true
that
facts.
over the
Right.
years, it's passed down. It's a generational thing. It passes down to the daughter. You don't need no man for this. You don't need no man for this. And by the time they grow up, it's the same cycle. Now you have to battle two forces in trying to get a woman. And then another thing, they get mad at, oh well, y'all get successful and want to date out of the race. I mean, y'all date out of the race when y'all are successful, but they're more harder on us for dating out of the race because they're like, well, why you can't marry none of us? That's why, point blank.
Flo, Lady Flo, this Lady Flo. Do we have a problem? Yes or no, and why?
Definitely, judging from the statistics. If you listen to the statistics, but on the flip side of the coin, why they figure because you have a problem because you see things different. Men got to realize when you tell a woman a lie, instantly everything that comes out your mouth behind that we can't trust it no more, and vice versa. This is a human thing. We have a big problem, that needs to be addressed, needs to, and it can be better. We humans, I think we have came a long way from scratch. I really do, because back then we wasn't even allowed to talk. We can communicate and get this. I'm very optimistic. I really don't have problems with men, because I eliminate them for the most part. I stay so busy trying to stay focused on bettering my world and helping others. I'm not focused on, that type of stuff. So I don't have problem with how people wants to be and how they live their life. Energy. We are governed by energy. And if you bring the right energy, everything around you flows a certain type of way. I walk through this life basically helping people, just making sure my energy is positive, where people just gravitate. Your energy, sometimes people don't look at themselves. They so quick to blame everything else around them. Focus on self first, and then everything around you will fall in place. I try not to ride the pity pot or play the blame game, because a lot of the times when people point the finger, they got to look at themselves and wonder why that type of energy circulates around you.
Yeah.
It's energy. We are governed by energy.
Yeah,
But
that's
we
what I said at the beginning when I was talking about, leadership. And I told you, I said, I failed.
definitely, definitely.
I failed. I mean, that was, if me as the man, if me as a man is supposed to be the head of the home and stuff like this, and I had nothing, if I had nothing but conflict, disorder, disarray, there could be, the argument can be made that it was a lack of leadership. That doesn't necessarily mean that that you couldn't get her or your spouse in line or come into cooperation with you. It could be something simple as that you chose poorly and you need to now
Yes,
exit.
yes,
So even that is a lack. Even if you look at it from a business perspective, even on the job, when you have a manager or super, we've all worked for companies where there's somebody on the team that's destroying the team, the morale, the behavior,
yes.
and the manager won't do nothing about it.
Nothing.
That's a
No leadership.
failure. That's a failure of leadership. And
Yes.
there's no difference than a man in his home with his wife. If he, even if he tries every reasonable metric or means, from going to the pastor to counseling to figure out different ways, talking to her mama to try to get on the same, if she can't get on the page, leadership requires you to move on.
TJ, you use the words war, the word war between black men and black women. I remember when black women and kids was off limits to a lot of the crap that men are killing women at a rate I never heard. It's unbelievable. What's going on? Why it is so extreme that it leads to you killing someone that you have kids with, that you laid with.
Come on
It's
now.
it's unbelievable to me that it will get to this point. We
Yeah,
we got to do something,
yeah.
because this got to come to a
I
halt.
understand. I understand where that's coming from because we've seen a couple things on the news that do that, but the data shows that, and this is for, because we're gonna, we want to throw everything at this particular show because we're just trying to come to a consensus if we got a problem now. But on future shows, when we're actually dealing with this issue, the data actually shows that black men are the least likely to bring harm to their wives and their kids.
Excuse me,
The
Mr.
CD,
Moore. Can I say something?
yeah, just give me 1 second. The
Okay.
CDC, the Center for Disease Control, which has done more studies on black culture than anything else, they're the ones that came out with that. And they're also the ones that said that black men are the most engaged fathers, of all the other races in this. And
Mm,
it's stuff that I'm reading and I'm going, well, that's not what I'm being taught. You know what I mean? But
exactly.
but they're not putting that. Well, they're not leading the news with that information
Mm,
about us and stuff like that. But the reason why I use the word war, flow, is because 24% of our black women, if you look at it out of $1, less than 25 cents of that dollar of black women are getting married.
mm.
That there's a problem with that.
False information leads to distrust, and that's what it is.
You
Mm.
know, I don't know. Miss Bree, do we have a problem? Yes, no, why?
Absolutely. We have a big, generous problem.
Mm.
The fact that that we get into it, and then when us as black women, we try to brace off and we leave. Let me go ahead and show you what I'm looking at, because I'm literally at my cousin's house and she's literally on a landfill full of gas. I'm looking at about over 10 gas tanks. Let something go on fire. Mind you, this is public housing. Everybody's over here is gonna go boom. And guess what? It's predominantly black culture. Mostly the black women, we're upset. We are upset. We try to be submissive. But you know what? Because of what has happened to whatever that man has went through, regardless of what we try to do, it doesn't matter. Most of them have mommy issues. And we have to suffer from that.
She
Now
said
we're
mommy
damaging
issues.
our children.
She ain't lying.
We're damaging our children. We have to go to Section 8 housing. We have to go apply for food stamps and this, that, and the third. Where the daddy at? He riding around with the next one because he didn't get the answer that he wanted. I'm speaking on my generation and what I have seen. I'm a millennial. I'm not Generation X, Generation Z, none of that. I'm a new millennium, and I'm telling you what I see. You see those gas tanks? She is in literally a landfill.
Yeah.
What is
So
supposed to happen to my cousin? There's over 10 that I'm looking at right here as I'm talking to y'all.
yeah.
So if a truck was to get drunk and crash into one of them, we're all gonna go boom. We're
So you're
literally
saying,
on a
so you're
gas
saying,
bill.
so you're saying, Miss Bree. So you're saying one of our problems is the fact that we might not have the best economic situations, and we have split homes,
Absolutely.
and we have split
Absolutely.
homes.
That's not it. It starts from the next generation. Mommy
Mhm.
hurt because of what daddy did. He
Yeah.
creeping with the next one. He
Yep.
got
As
85
we
different baby mamas.
as we
And she
move
been
on.
trying to hold him down. And
Yep.
I'm raising your kids, and you out. You telling me you going to work, but you
Yep.
creeping and going in the streets. I'm
As
talking about
we
the millennium.
as we move on, as we actually start getting into the work, which is actually going to start on the next show, um, when we start actually getting into the work in the specific topics, these are some of the things that we're going to be talking about. Our and what I'm hearing, like when I hear Mr. Morris says, "This generation of women is the worst generation," or
Absolutely, because the
or
generation above
hold
us
on a
is
second, Miss Bree.
actually
Hold on a second, Miss Bree.
absolutely. I'm sorry.
Yep. Or when I hear you talking about, the failure of responsible men. All of those are valid points. But we're
Absolutely.
gonna but I want to deal with them in a systematic way, not just the way in which we're accustomed to dealing with just throwing it out there and then not doing anything about it, or not
You
having
know,
or pushing that conversation forward. Because I mean, we want to march towards something, not
absolutely,
just
and that
not just
and
have this talk just for the sake of having the talk. Miss Smith, real quick, how did you feel when Mr. Morris said this is the worst generation of women coming up?
Well,
Or why would you or why,
this is not.
better question,
I mean,
Miss Smith, why would you think he would, Mr. Morris, hold on a second, why would you feel he would feel that way?
well, I felt some of the things that he was saying. I have to. I can relate to his feelings because we're close in age, and I see what he's saying. You know, a lot of people, a lot of women are angry. Why do you take public jobs if you're going to be mean to people?
Right.
Why work as a cashier? Why be a customer service rep? Why be in the public eye if you're not going to address people
What?
properly? Address people how you want to be addressed.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
know, you threw that word image out there. It's all about what you give out.
Right.
You know, that's his perception because that's he's seeing all he's seeing is the attitude, the anger, and how they perceive themselves. Now, me looking at that same person could see somebody that's hurting, somebody that does not feel loved, somebody that is looking for love in the wrong place, somebody that can see the other side. So I can feel what he's saying, but what are we doing? We having these conversations tonight so that we do something about that.
Yes,
So that
ma'am.
we can work on why our men see our women like that.
Yes,
Because
ma'am.
I truly I am my brother's keeper. I got my brothers back, and I want them to know that I'm here to hold them up, and I'm the only one that is here to hold you up. And there's more of us that need to get that way.
Yep.
You know,
All right,
and it
Mr.
all
Morris.
goes back.
Yes, sir. You know, for real, it's a lot of hurt on both sides. Cause us as men, we wasn't really taught to lead, right? We saw what we saw
Boom.
growing up.
Boom.
So I'm speaking for myself, like you were speaking for yourself. I was very immature in my relationships. You know, I thought I still could be the man of the house and still do what I do.
Hmm.
And as getting to an age and going, I've seen some of the mistakes that I was making. And we don't know how much damage we do to that woman until the after effects. So
Hmm.
I can't, I mean, and when I see this generation of women, I like, I know we did that. That's us who did that. But it's hurting at the same time. It's like, man, is it that bad? You know what I mean? And I work with a lot of young adults, and I see how they come to work. They upset or something over what their boyfriend has said, and that whole day is ruined. They don't work through it no more. And you have to be sensitive towards them, and it's like, I know, I know, and for us to grow as one man, it's a lot of hurt. It's not only that we got to get therapy for real because it's not only physical, it's mental as well, and it's been passed on from generation to generation. How do we treat a woman? How does a woman treat us? How do we come back together as a black community and build our homes back up? How do we lay that solid foundation? We got a lot of work to do.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. It starts right here, though. This is
Mm-hmm.
therapy, if you
Yeah.
ask me.
Said therapy.
This is good therapy because you got to get it
Mm-hmm.
out. A lot of people keep things so bottled in, and hopefully this platform will help people to release what's on their mind, and just release it and get it out because we need to, we really do.
Hey,
My whole
George, you
thing
want to add
is
something?
we have children. Y'all, most of y'all have children my age or close to my age.
Definitely.
And I'm gonna tell you what I went through. That's when the epidemic was hitting, especially with drugs. And we had to see what our mothers went through. Us not having Christmas gifts. Daddy took them. And
Mm,
we're not understanding as children why that happened. Yes, we are angry. We're very angry. So when it comes to the black male and when it comes to we're trying to give y'all our all and you give us the bare minimum, yes, we are very angry. You know what it's like going through childbirth if you're a woman. You could die at any point, especially if you have a C-section. So we're very close to our mothers. But daddy, oh, we're daddy. He run the streets. Especially when the epidemic hit of drugs.
Mm.
We're the children that's left that were hurt
I,
and
s-
had to watch
I
mommy
said it.
cry
Hold on, Miss
and
Bree.
give them
I said in
give
the
them that.
I mentioned in the monologue that Gen X, Gen Y primarily were the victims of the 1980s crack cocaine epidemic because
Absolutely. But what did it do
our
to those
parents were the ones that.
children?
All right, hold on a second, just a second, Miss. Hey, George, did you want to add something?
Oh man, so much to add, so much to add. But I'll
oh,
follow with. I agree with a lot of the panel that it's historical in nature. You can look back, like you said, in the 1960s is when really we saw all of these single mothers coming about. Um, Mr. Morris, reiterated the Section 8 or the public assistance. I think that had a lot to do with it. The mass incarceration of black men has had a lot to do with it. There's a lot of factors that have contributed to this split between black men and black women. But we could talk about that till the cows come home. But
I'm
but what
trying to
what is
tell you.
what are the
Mm-hmm.
solutions? We know
Yes,
where
sir.
we're at now.
Get to the
We know
point.
where we're at now. How do we get back to where we need to be. You know,
I,
go ahead.
I I think we all, I think as a whole, we know where we are at. I think the issue is, I think we're stuck in this loop of blaming each other for each other's woes. Um, which is, let me tell you something. It's valid to a degree. You know what I mean? Blaming each other woes. So what I would like to do moving forward, which I'm going to start next week, is actually, and I can't address everything, but I'm going to, start to start to pick some of the major breakdowns and addressing them at their source. And one of the things I want to do is try to dislodge us from our camps, because this is not working. I think the consensus on the panel is, do we have a problem? That's yes. And the biggest problem is it ain't working. What ain't working? Well, let's go figure that out. Miss Smith?
So my question is what are individually, what are we doing? Because we've tried the marching, we've tried, I mean, if you look back over history and you just chronological look at the things that have been taking place, injustice have been injustice, equality have been missed and thrown around for years. We've been fighting, we've sit in, we've marched, we've done everything. But what are we doing individually to get ourselves to a point to where we're saying enough is enough, and we're not going to do this. We're going to be accountable, not just for ourselves, but we're going to be accountable for our brother and our sister. We're going to be accountable not just for our household, but then now that we got our household together, we're going to be accountable for our community.
Yep.
And if we get out here in our communities, we begin to get our communities together, then we can start getting our states together, and then we can start going nationally. But it all starts with self.
Yeah.
Yes,
it
self.
goes back to knowing the power
Back
that
to
you
self.
possess.
Self.
And I think
You have to know the power that's on the inside of you. You got to position yourself to be an overcomer by being a willing vessel to empower others through your resilience. It's not by chance that you are here.
Yes, ma'am.
It's not by chance.
So let because we're getting a little long in the night, so I want to kind of wrap this up a little bit for tonight. So tonight was a interesting. I chose this topic for tonight. Do we have a problem? Because I want to march through some of these problems that we have. Next week's show, I'm a little bit worried about it because of the subject nature of the show. I talked about last night on the meet and greet that we have the conversation show. It's going to be broken down into 3 segments: her image, his image, and our image. And starting next week, I'm going to spend the next 2 months talking about her image. And it's going to be a very, very difficult thing to navigate, because there's going to be a lot of temptation to do the what about ism stuff. Like, well, what about him? What about him? Don't worry about him. We're going to get to him. Don't worry about his image and what he's doing. This platform, we're going to talk about him too. And if you guys think what I'm going to be doing with her image and the conversation around her image is going to be rough, you ain't seen nothing until I get to his image, because we are the protectors.
Yes.
And looking at 2022, what the world are we protecting? So I'm a kind of, huh?
Can I say something real quick?
Yeah, real quick. So next week's
real quick. What helps me a lot is
go ahead.
I do therapy and I deal with my mental illness, and it brings out a lot of underlying stuff that was inside of me, and it brings it to the fore.
Now you're not supposed to talk about therapy with Black folk, because we don't do stuff like that.
I got a mental health therapist.
We need to.
We do in this century. We do.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
We do now.
No. I say it all the time, boy.
See, when you know better, you do better.
You do better. Yes,
go get some help, boy.
One thing I have to say is,
I'm gonna give you the.
Being in my generation, we have watched our parents and our grandparents go through what they have went through, and we have seen nothing but a strong Black woman. Every time something happens with a Black man, and I'm not faulting the Black man, I love my grandpa to death. That was my daddy. I don't care what nobody said. He was there. But the things that happen, we was mostly with mamas and grandmamas and the old school remedies, stuff like
I
that.
mean, our
It's
generation.
damaged us. As the new millennials, we're upset. We're sticking up for our people.
Let me give
our
you one.
mothers,
Let me give you
our
one.
aunties.
Let me give you one thing, Bree, and then I'm gonna give Morris the last word, and we're gonna get up out of here.
Absolutely.
Prior to 1965, before 1965, which I wasn't born nowhere near 65, but prior to 1965, black people were married at a 80% clip. 80% of us were married prior to 1965.
Yeah,
absolutely. But how many were out of
what we're gonna do? We're gonna be doing a show on history, or I will, because that'll be a single person show on history, and that's gonna be at the end of June. And I'm gonna tackle 1965 through 1996, what happened with us in our community. But prior to 1965, we were married at an 80% clip. Now our women are only married at a 24% clip, and our black men are only married at a 34% clip. Do we have a problem? I would say you damn right we do.
Yes, we do. We don't trust the black man.
And I think we're walking
we don't trust the
I
black
think
man.
and I think we're walking around pretending and having attitudes like we don't. We got our women out here. Let me tell you something. I got a whole bunch of sisters. I don't want to put them on blast, but I got a whole bunch of sisters. Some of them, I've had many conversations with some of them about the fact you are old chick now. Go get up under somebody else's protection. Your dad is not designed to be your cover for the rest of your life. He's not designed for that. He got his own woman that he got to worry about. But we'll get to that later. I don't want to get in trouble because I think some of my sisters are watching.
And a problem is only a problem if you make it a problem. Now, your life, you run your life. Destiny is in your hand. Problem only become a problem if you make it one. Always remember that.
All right. So let me go ahead and tell everybody what we're going to be doing next week. Okay. Next week's show on Have the Conversation. We're gonna start with her. Remember, I'm saying we're starting with her image. The first topic under her image is I'm almost scared to say it. We're gonna talk about I think one of the biggest glaring statistical things about us, and that is the fact that 74% of our homes are head by single women, which means if you are a black man and you want a black woman, chances are you're going to be raising somebody else's kid.
Absolutely.
So next week, we're going to be talking about under her image, is it a good deal or a bad deal to be a stepdaddy? So with that being said, you guys hang back. Everybody else that stuck with us and watched this, I appreciate it. Those that will watch in the future, I appreciate it. This is a little rough. We will get better at this as we go along. We're building it while we're flying it, and we're building it out of the mud, okay? George, that's my brother-in-law. Thank you for joining us and giving us your voice. And these three wonderful people from Atlanta, Alabama, South Carolina, and my buddy Flo. Thank you.
Yes.
You know we getting grown up in here, right? 25 and up. Let me see your ID, baby. Nobody move till we say so. It's that 3D radio. DJ Bigger and Lady Flow. Real talk on 3D radio. Dress for success, so it's never fail. Roll delivery, so call it Gmail. Stay logged on till it's time to bail. Adults only, so now it's set sail. Don't act like you ain't heard what I said. Go on, little mama, put the kids to bed. Live on the net, you know it don't stop. Time to get loose like you do the wild. Need some advice, you know who we be. Relationship University. Soul like Marvin on the Mercy knees. And on the intro, you know it's Big D's. We came here to blow your mind. Caught up like the folks that's on the crime time. Clap your hands cause it feels so amazing. It's another TJM creation. Nobody move till we say so. It's that 3D radio. TJ Digger and Lady Flow. Real talk on 3D radio. Nobody move till we say so. It's that 3D radio. TJ Digger and Lady Flow. Real talk on 3D radio.